This is the Content, Design, and Delivery podcast with Michael Toner. Each episode, Toner discusses marketing and communication strategies with business leaders, designers, and content marketers that help shine the light on successful companies and marketing ideas. If you understand just how important content, design, and delivery is to the overall story you and your company is trying to share with the world, then listen along to Content, Design, and Delivery with your host, Michael Toner.
Sarah, welcome to the show. I want to get to know you, talk a little bit about your background, really hear your journey as a marketer and dig into your current role at Wibbits. Before we get there, you are the second guest I've had on the show from James Madison University. So go Dukes, quick shout out. I also think that you're the second SMAD major. And so for those who don't know, that's the school of. My first question to you is, what drove your interest in media arts and what was your experience like as a SMAD major at JMU?
Yeah, so SMAD is a really awesome program. It has 4 different concentrations you can choose from, but you actually end up taking classes in all 4. So film production, corporate communications, journalism, and converged media. So my concentration was in converged media, which is basically graphic design, not because I really wanted to be a designer or ever could be a designer, but because I've always been a natural writer. And I realized that I would want to understand the basics of design in order to write for visual channels and work closely with designers and understand exactly how I want things to look. And I'm pretty lucky because I know that a large number of people don't end up doing the thing they went to college for, but I think SMAD really gave me a solid foundation for the types of projects I ended up working on a regular basis, from my first job at a small ad agency and to now running the content strategy at Wibbits.
Yeah, nice. And we're going to get into all of your work at Wibbits. So I've often told people if I could go back to school, I would want to be a SMAD major. That program at JMU was just incredible. And to hear you really thinking about design and how it marries with visual, from being able to write copy, and that can support the design, in a lot of ways that speaks to really the theme of the show, which is how all of these things have to come together. So I think you also had some study in film. Looking at your background, you had some, I don't know if you were minored in film or what?
Yeah, I minored in film studies. I just got to watch movies and write about them for credit. So I was like, sign me up. I'm such a big film buff. So yeah, that was nice.
Very nice. So after school, did you move directly to New York? I know you had some roles. You mentioned starting at an agency. So maybe talk me through once you left school.
Yeah, so I was actually interning at the agency for the 2 summers before I graduated. So I would come to New York and live here for a summer. I was already like, I'm going to live in New York for sure. So after I graduated, I moved here and did a lot of waitressing, bartending, taking classes, really figuring out what my next step was going to be. Ended up at an insurance company where I was doing the marketing, technically more a lot of presentations, brochures, stuff like that. And I really wanted to get into a startup where I could really grow a brand from scratch. I was really interested in that. I was taking a lot of classes in content marketing, understanding the inbound type of marketing that HubSpot was teaching a lot about. So yeah, that's how I started applying to all these different startups, being like, give me a chance. I don't really have a lot of marketing experience, but I think this is really awesome. And I really think that this is something that I could be really good at after understanding from working in the ad space that copywriting was my strong suit on that end. So yeah, and Wibbits gave me a chance and I've been there for the last 5 years now and it's been awesome. I always say I've worked for 10 different companies because we've really been through so many different stages of growth and I've worn so many different hats, but it's been really awesome to really be able to, be able to see the direct impact that I have at every one of those stages. I think that's the great part about working at a startup in general.
You've been on that journey with the company. I'm a big Wibbits fan. I've been following the company for at least the last 3 or 4 years. And I think you've been with Wibbits since 2016. So you said 5 or 6 years now. And you've been running or currently running the content marketing program. So if you could share a little bit about your role, what does content marketing look like at an automated video production company?
Yeah, definitely. So my role has really been building and then managing every stage of the content calendar and the strategy. So from creation, distribution, optimization, and this includes everything from blog articles and website pages and the SEO strategy that goes along with it. Videos, obviously, infographics, ebooks, webinars, case studies, branded content, the works, really content that provides value to people that are looking to create video, people that are looking to figure out how to improve their own content strategy, and really helping them understand, driving them through that journey to help them understand why Wibbits would be the best solution for them were they were to actually find a solution that's not just trying to figure out working with an agency or trying to hire on a big video team. With Wibbits, you can really create videos without any experience and they look really great. And so that's really what my focus is as a content marketer, is really helping solve those challenges that they're really facing and when it comes to video. And then so when it's time for them to look for a solution, video is the one that comes, or Wibbits is the one that comes to mind. And then I've also led all the messaging, distribution, and many times operation strategy for all of our owned, earned, and a lot of shared channels. So overseeing the social media strategy, everything with email, building nurture programs through email, PR, pitching thought leadership interviews with our CEO, et cetera, content partnerships. So
I know all of the hats, and I think that's going to be instrumental as we get through this conversation and really how you've had to put on those hats at different points in the company's journey. I know I was first exposed to the platform, I think, like I said, in probably around 2017 or so. And I can recall it was a TMZ video that had these captions with these slick photo sliders and some roll mixed in. And I'm the type, as a marketer, I see this new format. I've never seen it before, and it's from TMZ. And I started digging around, and I don't know if it had the logo bug on the video, or somehow I was able to go in, maybe even looking at the code in the back end of their site to see this name Wibbits. And that's, I started digging around your website at the time and learned you all were really providing, at least at the time, what was described as programmatic text to video for some large publishers, including TMZ, Reuters, USA Today. So I know you talked about, and we've referenced this text to video creation or automated video creation, but how do you describe Wibbits to folks who are unfamiliar with what the tool does?
Yeah. So going back to what you were saying, it is pretty cool because this is such a popular format of video on social platforms. And it was great to work for a company that really helped introduce that type of format, large text overlays, summarizing a story, the TLDR version of a news article, or a promotion for an event. So how I describe it is that it's an online video creation platform for businesses. So it makes it easy to create those types of short form video that we've been talking about that work best on social platforms, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, as well as landing pages and articles. So the use cases can range from social media, news coverage, marketing, communications, recruitment, events, and it's really just used by professionals that work for companies across all industries and sizes. People with my job are the ones that are really using it the most.
Yeah, it's really crazy to be able to take long form text, turning it into something that's snackable. TLDR, I love that description of it's exactly what it is. You can pull out the highlights. What have you all seen working best of those different types of businesses that are using it? Is it mostly these large publishers? Are you seeing bloggers, podcasters with transcriptions? Are there any use cases that you see work best with the platform?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely, I would say, work even more with marketers now than we do with publishers at this point. There's just so many different businesses of all different sizes that can use us. So I would say it works really well for really repurposing longer form content in general as a content marketer, or working as maybe even working for a small team at a company. And really content marketing is, I would say, the best use case for it. But you have so much content already, but you're always looking for ways to really squeeze the value out of it. I think that's always the key to good content marketing is using what works and making it better and improving on it and pushing it out more. And video really is the best way to do that. So that's definitely what I would say is the best use case, really repurposing, using it to pull takeaways. I'm going to use it to pull takeaways from this conversation that we're having right now in order to promote this podcast. So definitely.
Yeah. And I think we're specifically talking about video. And I think every year for the last 6 or 7 years has been the year of video. And I found the Forbes article, I think from just a couple of weeks ago, that your CEO did. And one of the subheadlines was, video has the power to connect buyers to brands and create customer experiences we never could have imagined just a few years ago. And undoubtedly, the Forbes article talking about Wibbits is talking about how the global pandemic and the last year's events and the combination of those events alongside the advances in technology have initiated what it called the golden era of video. So here we are again, it's still the year of video. Just wanting to hear from you of what has the impact of the global pandemic been on your business, and maybe take me through the evolution of Wibbits and how you all have had to pivot.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously, while the pandemic has definitely impacted many of us on an individual level, the demand for video and then our platform has actually catapulted during this time, like you were saying. So video is no longer just a nice to have, regardless of industry. It's the best way to make connections with people online, especially now with most people working remote and live events at a standstill. Video is really making up for a lot of those missed connections that a lot of marketers were depending on for a lot of their leads, a lot of their way that they were making connections. So video really is a great way to make those connections online. So I would say come March, we realized that our role in all of this was really to further democratize the creation of video content by lowering the barrier to entry to use our platform. So before we followed a model that's more common of traditional enterprise SaaS software. Someone had to request a demo on our site, speak with the sales rep. It was a really long sales cycle. Now someone can sign up on the site, start a trial, pay for it, and all on their own. So this allowed us to offer like new lower pricing plans to support the video strategies of smaller teams, individual creators. And we really saw, I think it was like 180% increase in monthly signups to our platform. So yeah, definitely we're just seeing video really just continues to grow as a priority. It's not just something that audiences love the best, but it's something that makes the most sense for marketers to reach those audiences. So definitely every year is the year of video.
I got a couple of my own experiences. I think when I first was introduced to Wibbits, I was in that more enterprise sales cycle where I was assigned a rep and I was talking with somebody and it was this back and forth of demos. And even since you and I have started speaking in the past few weeks here, I went to the site and signed up for the free trial. The overall experience, it walked me through creating a video in under 30 seconds. And I'm a pretty savvy tech guy. I get into all kinds of platforms like this. I'm a practitioner. I'm in these tools. And the walkthrough that it provided, literally the graying out the back of the screen, the pop-ups where I needed to be looking and clicking through 4 or 5 steps to get to a real video, not a demo, not a template, but actually a video that I frankly could use. And I think you've explained just this overall concept, or I referenced it too, as this automated video creation. I think the challenge that a lot of marketers have likely had with video is the barrier to entry. And so hearing you say this democratization of video creation, unless you went to school as a SMAD major and learned how to use Adobe Premiere or Final Cut and you have the skills to edit video, I think a lot of marketers have just shied away from it. It's expensive, it's time consuming.
And even taking those classes, I couldn't go in and create a really great looking video still. I'm not a video editor just because I know the basics. I know the basics of Photoshop, but I'm not a designer. I'm not a video editor. So having tools like this, I think that's why we realized we really need to lower our barrier to entry because our platform is so easy and intuitive that it made sense not to gate it so far behind these processes and really get it in front of people as fast as we can. And so they can just jump in and start using it.
And so maybe just to dig in a little bit there, knowing that you all were at a certain point focused more on this more typical SaaS B2B enterprise sales model, the pandemic really pivoting the whole business to a self-service model without maybe getting into too much detail. But what does that look like from a pricing and revenue perspective ultimately for the company? I guess the real question is, has it been successful?
Yeah, definitely. Well, like I said, it was like about 180% increase in monthly signups. I think every week we're saying we hit another record. I would say it definitely was I think like most other companies, come March when we found ourselves in this new norm. So everyone really had to shift. And I think that this made the most sense to shift to this model because it's like, I want video and I want video now idea that I think it's something good that we're leaning into.
And yes, because events were canceled, all these other marketing channels, marketers were forced into these digital channels. And video is one of the most powerful ways to create engagement. Just to go back even to my use case when I signed up and provide the listeners with a little bit more context around the tool. And I'd encourage you to those listening to go sign up, go through the 30-second demo, create your own video. It allows you to add text overlays, animations. You can take the full text. It pulls from a library of, I guess, approved stock footage. Maybe you can give a little description of how is that process happening? Where is that stock footage coming from? How is it being matched up with the text? Maybe a little behind the scenes on the technology of how it works.
Yeah, so we have partnerships with large media providers like Getty Images and Storyblocks. So all the media in the platform is fully licensed. There's you can search for videos, images, GIFs, and pull it into your video. It's really easy, drag and drop. You can use different filters. It's similar UI than you would trying to find footage or images in those actual platforms. So I want one person in this video, something like that, searching by the keywords. You can favorite them so you can keep them. It's a really intuitive experience and it really gives you access to so much footage. I've shot a lot of talking head videos these days, but it really is helpful to have all that row because you can't really go out and shoot much these days. So, but just in general, yeah, I think that's always been a really big selling point for our platform as well, because it can get really pricey to pay for subscriptions to these platforms or even just download a single asset. So it's definitely the media library is a big bonus of using Wibbit.
And so once somebody signs up and they've got a paid working account, they have access to that full licensed library of content, or there are additional levels if there's maybe a premium piece of the role that I want to include. Is that how it works?
Yeah, there's definitely it's tiered plans. So it's really just the number of media assets that you're given access to, but there's definitely plans with unlimited access as well.
Gotcha. One of the things that also stuck out to me when I first got in there, going through some of the top role that was included. And there was quite a lot of COVID-related role, people wearing masks, people putting up signs in their storefronts. Has that been a predominant use case that you all have seen as you all pivoted to the self-service model? I can imagine small to medium-sized businesses that needed to communicate their new COVID protocols. Is that something that you have seen as the main use case in the past 6 or 8 months?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, that was the topic that everyone was talking about, regardless of what industry they were in. And I think it's still something that people are talking about, but I think there's definitely a sense of COVID fatigue with today's online audiences that I think people are trying to, I guess, escape from it a little bit and get more information that's not COVID related, but that doesn't mean that people aren't still searching for that type of information. I mean, I think that is why we saw such a huge surge in video immediately after it hit, because people were looking for that type of information. That's exactly what people were looking for. And that's really, they're looking to the brands to give them that information for them to go onto social media and get really quick videos where they can learn different updates or anything that's really specific to their interests in when it comes to COVID. So yeah, I would say it's still something everyone's talking about, but I think a lot of brands are also trying to get back to as normal as possible in their communication.
Sure. I want to take this pivot that it's went through in the last year and really look through your lens as a content marketer. So it's always fascinating to me to speak with content marketers who work for organizations who do content marketing at a nature.
Content marketing to content marketers, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So, and you've mentioned all of the different hats that you have to wear, from working in PR and pitching thought leadership and creating content and creating social media content. How are you possibly creating all of that content to reach out to content marketers? What channels are you prioritizing? Are you all doing paid advertising, paid targeting? Maybe talk me through a little bit about your overall marketing stack. You also mentioned HubSpot a little bit. So what does this look like for you as a content marketer to really get the word out about this new self-service model with Wibbit?
Yeah, definitely. So there's a lot to unpack there, but I would say definitely working with agencies, freelancers in terms of a tech stack, using Wibbit. It's obvious that's how we're creating so much video on a regular basis. I would say my content strategy, especially since we moved to self-service and people are able to get right into the platform, is using the platform as much as possible, using the social channels that Wibbits really works best for. So LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook are the 4 big ones, and YouTube, obviously. Just creating as much content as we can to really show what the best possible use case could be, how using all the textiles that we have available, so many different textiles, and really showing how it can be used in content marketing by using it in our content marketing. So I would say organically, yeah, those are the 4 channels. We're also definitely running paid ads in terms of PR, getting in front, having conversations like this, trying to get in front of as many different audiences as possible in the content marketing space. We use Marketo for email communication. So really setting up those nurture programs to make sure that when people are showing interest in the platform, they're getting the content that makes the most sense for where they are in their journey. If they had just started a trial, making sure we're sending them stuff to really help them be like, oh, by the way, here are maybe some hacks that you can use, or some things you may not have noticed about the platform yet. You're really helping them get to know it as much as possible in that time. And yeah, just really trying to build a really cohesive messaging across all these different channels. So if somebody goes to social media and looks at us and wants to learn about us on Instagram, and then they go into our site and they sign up for a trial and they get these emails, it's really, they're being told a story that helps them drive their decision to ultimately realize why they should pay for Wibbits, really.
Well, even after I signed up, I got what it looked like a personalized email from an individual with a person's name with some tips and tricks just to getting started. As a marketer, I know that is likely automated, but it's still impressive to have the personal touch with that onboarding email. Just to dig in a little bit on the nurtures that you referenced, because that's also always a fascinating topic, especially given the meta nature of what you are doing from a content marketing perspective. How are you all creating different tracks, these different personas? What are those big, large buckets of content marketers? Is it more at a leveling where you're talking to executives versus the practitioners? Or is it more industry focused where you're talking to the big publishers one way and you're talking to the small to medium sized businesses another way? Or maybe it's some combination of all. So what does that look like for you?
Yeah, so I would say our targeting when it comes to email email is really based on two different segments. So where they are in the actual journey, awareness, their trial stage, if they've started a trial but didn't decide to pick a plan, if they're a customer on the self-service side versus not on the self-service side, and basically everything in every part of that journey. And then there's their job, what the job to be done is. I think, or when you go into the platform, you can tell what are you going to be using this for? Marketing, social media, internal comms, news. So they let us know in the beginning exactly how they want to use the platform. So then I can turn around and create dynamic content that will give them something that's the most relevant to them, showing them templates in the platform that are most relevant to their use case. If they're internal comms, showing them something about onboarding new members or company news, versus if it's social media, showing them product promos. And there's just, I think, like you were saying, the personal touch, really making sure that we are showing them, regardless of what your use case is, we understand that there's so many different use cases, but we understand what you need, and Wibbits has it all in the platform and really guiding to figuring that out for themselves. Now that it really is they're not interacting with an individual when they're going through this experience. So marketing has become an even larger part of their experience on a regular basis.
That makes sense to me, that because they're not having that interaction with sales, that marketing has to step up in many ways to, well, communicate the information necessary during that onboarding process. I do recall the question there of how do you intend to use Wibbits, and it popped up with 8 or 9 different boxes. I think I chose the podcasting one. I saw the internal comms. That is interesting. I hadn't really thought about that tool as an internal communications vehicle, but I can see that's also a really powerful tool. And generally, just hearing you describe the way you all have come up with those nurture tracks based on, as you said, the job to be done, I think that is a lesson for a lot of content marketers, that maybe it's not slicing and dicing personas by industry or by whether executive level or practitioner, but what is it that the company is trying to achieve with this tool? I think that's a really...
Yeah, because the person that's signing up for the trial is ultimately, it's the user, right? They're deciding they want to try it. It's not typical, unless it's a smaller company, that an exec is going to be testing on a platform. It's going to be the person that's ultimately going to be using it that is going to be testing it out. So obviously we want to speak to the decision makers, because they're the ones that they have to get their approval in order to decide to buy the platform, pay for a plan. But yeah, we're speaking to the job that has to be done and what the value that they get out of it for the specific job that they have. And with everything, with our self-service model and in marketing in general, we're always working on testing and improving. And we really put this out very, very quickly. Our product team is amazing. March, we were like, all right, we're going to move to self-service. And I think it was May that we really had it almost set up on the platform or on our website. So since then, we've really just been fine-tuning as much as possible, running tests, really trying to understand more about this new, I guess, buyer persona that comes through self-service and what's different than the enterprise clients that we've been working with for a long time. So I think email is also a really great way to really get to know your audience.
Yeah, kudos to your product development team for having the ability to, what feels like to me anyway as an outsider, turn on a dime. And I'm sure it was not that easy. My next question to you is how are you, from a content marketing perspective, partnering with product marketing and knowing that you all are working with different buyer personas, whether that's an internal comms person or a content marketer at your client? I'm sure you're getting feedback from them now on this self-service platform. So let's start with, what is your relationship, even over the last 12 months, as the product development team was working on changing over to the self-service model? Are you in constant contact with them? Is it daily meetings? Are they pulling you in at intervals? What does that partnership look like?
Yeah, so it's a once a week meeting that I have with product, really understanding, because as all of this is happening, we're still putting out new features on a regular basis that we need to communicate to our new customers, our existing customers, so our trial customers. A lot of our conversations are find ways to push out, let them know about these new features. And then it's, okay, how can we improve the first time experience so they really get to understand all of the features in their first get-go? Because you've started a free trial before. You don't do all 7 days ever. You start the first couple of days and then you decide if you want to buy or not. So that first day is really important. And so I've been working a lot with the product team to make sure that we can make that first day as great of an experience as possible. So a lot of our work right now has been on really churning out a lot of tutorials for every different, how to trim your media, how to create your own template, all these different things that are in the platform that we will be able to, in the first time experience, be like, okay, we'll watch this tutorial and you can do it while you watch. And I think going back to video, we have to practice what we preach. Video is the best way to deliver information, to help people learn things. There's a stat that I don't know the exact number, but video helps people remember something so much more than text alone. alone. And so I think that's been a really big project that we've been working on, is really turning out a lot of tutorials for every different feature in the platform so that all of our Help Center articles have videos attached to them. So we can have a YouTube channel where people can go to. And like I was saying, that cohesive journey, having everywhere they go, they can learn a little bit more about Wibbits. And then, having it as part of that first time experience.
I think another key insight there, that first time experience. I mean, even before I heard you say that's what I was describing, that first 30 seconds of being signed in on the platform. The other comment I'd make there too is that the walkthrough wasn't overbearing. So somebody who, like myself, is a practitioner and I'm in these tools, I generally was pretty well oriented as soon as I got in it. And oftentimes those kinds of walkthroughs are a bit distracting for me, right? They're not providing me the value, but in fact, I did feel as though it was properly leveled. I don't know how else to describe that, as though I could see that somebody who maybe isn't a daily practitioner in those kinds of tools would still be oriented. And for somebody like me, it wasn't off-putting to get walked through that. So another question just about how your partnership with the product marketing team, once somebody is on board and they've signed up and they've put their credit card in, they've now transacted with you, what does the feedback loop look like? Are you guys doing surveys, NPS score? Are you involved in that, or is it going straight to the product marketing team? Knowing that you all, as you said, are still pushing out regular updates and tweaks to the platform, I imagine each of those different personas has a different use case that they would love to see built in.
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of the in-app messaging is definitely more on the product and success side. They're really managing that. But because, like I said, we want it to be a cohesive journey, we're working with them on a regular basis. When we want to put out something like a new announcement, we want to make sure that it's in the platform as well as being sent in an email. I would say as soon as someone signs up, they put in their credit card, they become a customer, they're immediately getting an email from us being like, hey, you're a customer. Awesome. Here are the first things you need to do. You need to update your brand kit. So everything's really fully branded to your brand. And here are different resources that you can bookmark, really getting, okay, now we've taught you a bunch of stuff while you were in your trial, but now that you're a customer, you're going to want to get the most value out of the platform as you can. So providing them with that content to help them do that. And so working with, at that point, I would say, product and success are focused more on the in-app experience. And then we're really working on the outside of the platform experience that goes along with that.
Sure. Yeah, I'm always fascinated by how marketing and product marketing, and then hearing client feedback. Like I said, there's people probably have all kinds of things they would like to see built, and then it's really up to the product dev team to prioritize any of those asks and wants within the platform. Yeah, I guess you started to talk about the success that you all have seen in the signups and creating this value for the customers. Once, maybe this is still on when somebody has signed up, are they assigned a customer success rep? Is there somebody dedicated to each of the accounts, or depends on the level?
Service, no.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
You can still sign up for an enterprise plan, and then you would go through a sales rep, and it would be that traditional SaaS cycle. But for the self-service plans, there is access to chat support.
Very good. And really where I was going with that is companies, especially now, are really looking to extract value out of the tools that they are purchasing. So if somebody's going to make an investment, whether that is at a transactional level or at an enterprise level, they're likely going to be held accountable for whatever it is they bought, to be able to go back to their boss and show that they've gotten additional engagement or whatever the reporting or the KPI is that they're trying to prove. So that's what I guess I want to get at, is how are you all looking at analytics for your clients, or maybe more importantly, how are your customers looking at that return on investment from video? We've talked a lot today about just how powerful video is, and I'm sure clients know that, but are they coming to you all to prove that? And how are you all helping them prove the value of the tool from an ROI perspective?
So that's another big part of what I do. I go on a lot of customer calls and learn about how they're using the platform, put together a lot of case studies, pull quotes from them. Case studies I think are really helpful, and I'm always pushing them to our sales team or show them to different specific use cases that are asking about ROI, because there really are so many different metrics to look at when it comes to video. So it really can impact any goal that a business may have. So I don't want to just send them a whole list of all the different ways. We really want to make, again, personalize that experience. But I would say the big ones are social reach and engagement. Most platforms are prioritizing video in their algorithms, and social video generates like 12 more shares than text or images on social media. So it gets in front of more people. It's more likely to be shared. And so on social, people are looking at views and engagement. So like Moxor, which is an omega-3 supplement, they've seen a 35% increase in engagement across social media since they started posting videos they made with Wibbits. So compared to their non-Wibbits video social posts, their videos, they've already seen 35% more engagement. So that's helped them boost their metrics across every stage of the buyer's journey. We all know how social media can trickle to every different stage. So from brand awareness to sales has really made an impact. So I would say, like we were saying, it's also another one is that it's really great for repurposing and improving the performance of existing content. So you can squeeze all that value. So we have another example from HubSpot, offices all over the world. There's so much content that they're creating in, say, the US office that would be just as valuable for the Latin American audiences. So with Wibbits, they're really able to really easily localize their content for different regions and repackage longer form content into digestible videos. So I think really being able to see the sheer number of content that you're putting out. And then I think the biggest one out of everything is time. I mean, time is really valuable. I think it should be looked at more a metric in itself, because if you're able to save time, then you're saving a lot of other things too. And a lot of companies will outsource video to an agency, and it can take months to really have a one video turnaround. And not to mention that one video can be really costly working with an agency. So if you can find ways to turn that around a lot faster and also in-house with the existing resources that you have, then your ROI is going to be a lot higher.
I cannot overemphasize the automated creation of videos as the key value proposition for me. And I'm sure for many of your buyers. And to your point, reducing that time, I was able to create a video in, we're talking 30 seconds. Obviously, you can spend a lot more time in there and create longer videos, but just being able to reduce that time, I see that is a huge advantage for you and a huge value for your clients. And maybe my last question to you is, where does automated video creation go next? What's next for Wibbits? And I'm thinking about the Oculus of the world, the rumored Apple glasses or whatever it may be. What's next for Wibbits? Where does this automated video creation go?
Yeah, so I would say we've always been really focused on paying a lot of attention to what our clients' needs are and paying attention to where the industry is headed. I would say right now the talking head videos are huge. Being able to just have, it's not even that it needs to be highly produced anymore. I think the rise of TikTok is really proof of that. Really seeing that really people just want to see other people. We want to make connections these days more than anything. So I would say really trying to figure out ways to make it easier to create those types of videos, not just with text on screen, but to sync more with audio and improve our audio controls. I mean, I've been creating a lot of talking head videos over the last year. Like I was saying, I can't really go out and shoot anywhere anyway. So, and I've never been a girl. I've always been behind the scenes, but it is what it is. Now I'm the one creating the content. I'm also the one that's behind the camera. So, and I've been creating it with Wibbits and it's awesome. So I think definitely adding more capabilities for that is in the near future. And I think in general, live video is huge right now. Streaming videos are really big right now. Just figuring out ways to connect the two, the digital video side of things and the live video side of things. And I think automation, there's so many different things that just makes easier and better. Like you were saying, the email that you got, it's automated, but you appreciated it because it was personalized. So the personalization of content is, I think, interactivity is also important. So these are all, our product team is truly amazing. They're churning out new features all the time, making our platform a better user experience, making it easier, faster to create video content, which is ultimately the goal.
I love to hear that. My brain starts spinning of all of the interactive modules that you could have on a text to video created tool linking into different products. I could see there's probably all kinds of different use cases. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Sarah, for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah.